Ever feel like maybe the world of government and politics, could use a serious dose of, well, boredom.
Boredom.
Yeah, boredom. And luckily for us, we're diving into the work of this political scientist, Kartik Gada, who makes a pretty good case that boring might be just what we need.
Okay, I'll bite. What makes this Kartik Gada guy think boring is the answer?
Well, he has this radical idea, right? He's saying this government should function like a utility company.
A utility company. That's an interesting comparison. I don't usually think of government and the electric company in the same sentence.
Right. But think about it. We don't need constant excitement from our electricity or our water companies, do we? I mean, we just expect them to work, right? Reliably and efficiently, and without all the drama. Gada seems to be suggesting we should start viewing government through that same kind of lens.
Okay, so instead of all the grandstanding and the political theater, we'd have what? A government laser focused on just delivering those essential services with like maximum efficiency. Is that what Gada's getting at?
That's exactly it. He's saying that a government, if it were operating like a well-run utility company, it would actually prioritize quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. I like that.
Me too. And he says they should really just focus on a few core functions. He's talking about things like, infrastructure, a fair and effective judicial system, those essential utilities, and of course, a strong national defense.
So rather than trying to be everything to everyone, Gatto wants a government that chooses a few things and does them really well.
Exactly. But here's the thing. That implies a pretty drastic reduction in, like, the scope of government, right?
Yeah, it definitely does.
So what happens to all those other services that governments, currently provide?
Well, this is where Gatto's faith in the free market really comes into play.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Basically, he's saying anything outside of those core functions that we just talked about, those should be managed and regulated by the forces of supply and demand. Like, he's pretty critical of the tendency for governments to overreach, saying it often just leads to, inefficiency and bureaucracy.
Oh, man. It's like that time I spent an entire morning, literally the entire morning at the DMV. And it was just to renew my driver's license. And the whole time I'm just sitting there thinking, there has got to be a more efficient way to do this.
And Gaeta would probably say, let the private sector have a go at it.
Right, Kike.
Gaeta believes that a really vibrant private sector, one that's, spurred by competition and innovation, that it would be able to deliver a lot of these services way more efficiently. And who knows, potentially at a lower cost than the government.
It's a pretty radical shift in perspective, though, isn't it? When you start to think about it, you start to wonder, like, what would a world even look like where the government actually takes a step back and lets the private sector sort of take the reins in areas, for example, like healthcare or education?
Well, and that's precisely the kind of thought-provoking discussion that reading Guz's work, it inspires, right? He challenges all this conventional thinking and, forces us to kind of re-examine our assumptions about like, what is the role of government in society?
I like that.
But before we, dive deeper into his vision, I think we need to address the elephant in the room.
Which is?
Social safety nets.
Right.
How do we provide for those in need? Because surely a truly boring government, it can't mean just, ignoring those who need assistance.
Right, of course not. So where does Gutta stand on that?
Well, he definitely doesn't advocate for a heartless approach. He does, however, call for a system that's a little more nuanced, a little more targeted than what we often see today. He believes a safety net is crucial, but says it should primarily focus on, preventing extreme hardship.
As opposed to?
As opposed to aiming for complete equality of outcome.
So we're talking about like a safety net that really provides, that vital backstop.
Yeah.
For folks who are facing genuine hardship, but it like doesn't create a system where people become dependent on it.
Exactly. He, Gada, argues that, these overly expansive safety net programs, they can sometimes, they can disincentivize work, right?
Right.
And create a whole bunch of other unintended consequences.
So are there examples of this?
He points to this study, it was done in Finland, where what they did is they simplified their welfare system and they provided a guaranteed basic income.
Okay.
And get this, it actually led to a 5% increase in employment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's less about being, uncaring and more about kind of finding a system that actually empowers people to achieve, self-sufficiency whenever possible.
Yeah, precisely. Gada's advocating for a system that provides a hand up, not a handout, right?
Right.
He believes in that safety net that acts as a springboard.
I like that, a springboard.
Right. Helping people overcome those temporary challenges, and then, boom, get back on their feet.
Not a hammock,
Not a hammer.
where you just sort of get stuck.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a really complex issue, and, it's not like there are any easy answers, but I don't know, it's refreshing, at least to me, to hear somebody who's proposing solutions that are kind of, you know, both compassionate, right?
Yeah.
But also pragmatic. But, okay, this idea of, shrinking the scope of government and relying more on the free market, that seems to go against the grain of how a lot of people view the role of government.
It does.
Particularly when we're talking about, like, healthcare, education.
Yeah, you're right. It challenges that conventional thinking. Take healthcare.
Okay.
Gada would argue that instead of a government-run single-payer system, we should be focusing on creating a system that incentivizes competition, right?
Okay.
Innovation within that private sector,
Yeah.
while at the same time ensuring that essential care is accessible to everyone.
So instead of the government being like the primary provider of healthcare, they would kind of focus on setting clear rules,
Exactly.
regulations, and then just let the private sector compete, whoever provides the best and most affordable services. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Think about it like the telecom industry.
Okay.
The government sets the standards,
Uh-huh.
regulates the airwaves, right?
Yeah.
But they don't run their own phone company.
Right.
And as a result, you've just seen, incredible innovation and competition,
Yeah, you're right.
which has led to better services, lower prices for consumers.
Right.
Gada believes that a similar approach could work, could yield really positive results in healthcare.
It's a bold idea. I'll give them that.
Right.
Whether or not, I don't know, whether or not you agree with it, it definitely makes you kind of think differently
It does.
about the potential role of the free market in, addressing these societal needs that we have.
Yeah.
But I do want to move us on to another critique that Goda levels at modern governance.
Okay, yeah.
It's this transformation of government into like a form of entertainment.
Right.
Almost like a substitute religion for some.
Yeah, it's what's he getting at there? I think he's warning us about the dangers of political spectacle
Okay.
and how that can really distract us all from the real work of governing.
Okay.
That we're just bombarded, right?
Totally.
24/7 news cycles, partisan, all the punditry,
Yeah.
social media outrage. It's so easy to get sucked into all that drama.
Oh, tell me about it. I swear, sometimes I'm just scrolling through my news feed and I think to myself, this is like watching some never-ending reality TV show.
And that's exactly the problem, right? When we become kind of so consumed by the theatrics of it all, the theatrics of politics, we lose sight of, the real issues that are actually affecting our lives.
Right.
And Gada, what he argues is that this focus on spectacle, it allows special interest groups, and he uses this phrase, industrial complexes.
Industrial complexes.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that for a second? I'm not sure I totally understand what he means by that.
He's referring to these powerful groups, right?
Right.
And they benefit from maintaining the status quo,
Uh-huh.
often at the expense of the common good.
Okay.
And these groups, they thrive in this environment where political discourse is really dominated by, ideology, emotion,
Yeah.
rather than reasoned debate,
Right.
evidence-based policy making. They use their influence to shape public opinion.
Correct.
They lobby for favorable legislation and basically just protect their interests,
Right. Right.
Think about, the military-industrial complex,
Mm-hmm.
the pharmaceutical industry, big tech.
Yeah.
These are all examples of powerful entities that, Gada might categorize as those industrial complexes.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So he's saying that when politics becomes a form of entertainment, it creates an opening for these special interests to kind of exert undue influence.
Yes.
Often at the expense of everyday citizens.
Exactly. And this ties right back into his argument for, a more boring government.
Right.
One that prioritizes, effective governance over the political grandstanding.
Right.
He believes that by reducing all the drama, all the spectacle, that we can create this space, right,
Well,
for more rational, more evidence-based decision-making.
Yeah.
And that's what's really going to serve the needs of the people.
It's a compelling argument for sure, and one that I think really resonates in our current political climate. But Gada isn't all doom and gloom, is he?
He's not.
I mean, he seems surprisingly optimistic about the role that technology can play when it comes to improving governance.
Yeah, he seems to, he really sees technology as this potential game changer. Where does he see the most promise?
He really believes that these advancements, right, advancements in automation, artificial intelligence, he thinks those could, like, revolutionize the way governments operate.
Really?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
talking about making them more efficient, more transparent, and of course, more cost-effective.
So, okay, paint me a picture. Let's say I need to renew my driver's license. Are you telling me instead of that, like, dreaded trip to the DMV,
Right.
that I could just hop online
Yeah,
and there'd be some, like, user-friendly AI system and it would just, like, walk me through the whole process
exactly.
in, like, minutes?
Yeah. No lines, no hassle, just boom, efficient service. That's what he envisions. I mean, that's almost too good to be true, but I mean, let's be real. A change that dramatic, that would have to have some ripple effects, right? Like what about all the people whose jobs might be, I don't know, automated out of existence?
Right. And that's a valid concern. And Gata, he acknowledges that these kinds of technological advancements, yeah, they will probably lead to some job displacement. But his argument is that these changes, they'll also create new opportunities.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Hmm.
So where would these new opportunities be?
Well, in other sectors,
No.
particularly in those fields that are, related to technology, data analysis, and innovation.
So it's not so much about just like replacing human workers with robots, but rather kind of, adapting our workforce,
Right.
helping people get the skills they need to actually thrive in this new world,
Exactly.
this future that's driven by automation and AI.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, Gata is optimistic. He's optimistic about the future. He really believes that by embracing technology and adapting to the challenges that it brings, that we can create, a more efficient, a more effective, and honestly, a more responsive government, one that really truly serves the needs of its citizens.
It's a hopeful vision, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it kind of underscores, I think, Gada's, core belief.
Yeah.
This idea that government should function like a utility. It should be reliable, it should be efficient, and it should be laser focused on delivering those essential services to people.
Absolutely. And you know what? It might not be the most glamorous vision, but maybe that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
We live in a world that's so obsessed with the theatrics of politics, and I think Gada's ideas, they offer this really refreshing call to return to pragmatism, to efficiency, and to this focus on the common good.
I like that.
He reminds us that sometimes those most effective solutions, they're not always the flashiest. Sometimes they're the ones that are just quietly and reliably making our lives better.
That's a powerful message, and I think it's one that's really worth pondering,
Mm.
especially as we kind of navigate the complexities, right, of 21st century governance.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into, Kurt thought-provoking work, here's something, I don't know, maybe for you all listening out there to consider. What if the real key to a better future, what if it isn't more government? What if it isn't even less government?
Okay.
What if it's smarter government?
Smarter
A
government.
government that really leverages technology, that embraces innovation, and really just focuses on delivering those essential services with the efficiency of, a well-run utility company.
I like it. It's a compelling vision. And it challenges us to really rethink our assumptions about, what government can be,
Yeah.
what it should be.
It does. We hope this deep dive has, at the very least, sparked your curiosity, maybe even inspired you to think a little differently about the role of government, especially, as we said, in our rapidly changing world. So until next time, keep exploring these ideas, keep questioning, and never forget, sometimes the most profound ideas are the ones that make you stop and think, not the ones that make you shout and react.